Just gone 5:45. Good afternoon, it's Dave Webster on BBC Radio Cambridgeshire. Nick Carter is on at 6 for the official start to your weekend. Just before we go to him, though, a brilliant story. I think this is my favourite bit of the whole show. Archive footage of the Fens, recorded during the 1970s, has resurfaced and will be used to create a new documentary by a local filmmaker. The thousands of feet of 35mm film captures the testing of the Hovertrain between the towns of Erith and Sutton. But those involved in the project are appealing for help from the public. Let's find out why. Drew Berry is one of those and is the filmmaker from Fenland on Film. Good afternoon, Drew.
Good afternoon.
This is brilliant that you found new footage of the Hovertrain. How did you do it?
I can't take credit for the find. That lies purely at the hands of Brian Pearce, who, when you say Hovertrain at the moment, it rings a bell because it's currently resting at Rail World in Peterborough. And these films were entrusted to him by somebody that was involved in the tracked hovercraft project, because they were most likely going to be skipped. So to avoid that happening, Brian sort of took them into his possession. I believe he contacted a few entities and organisations to see if they were interested in taking them, but there were no takers.
It's amazing what you can find in skips. I found myself, even though I'm in my mid to late 20s, now looking in every single skip that I go by, because you just never know what you're going to find. So what does the footage show?
Well, we don't know the extent of that just yet. I've been very careful to handle them as little as possible. I've looked at the first few frames of a select number of the reels, but what I've seen on there is definitely the Hovertrain, which is reassuring. But there is a lot of footage there that seems to have been shot on the lead up to testing, whilst installing the concrete track that, as you say, was laid between Erith and Sutton. So I'm very, very confident there's going to be a lot of gems there. We just don't really realise it yet.
So do we know who took the footage and what it was going to be used for?
It was going to be used for marketing material, basically. Not for this country, but to market the Hovertrain technology overseas. And I think it's brilliant that they had the foresight to shoot this on 35mm, which was the cinematic standard of the era. You know, they could have easily shot it on 16mm, but they didn't.
And so I imagine then, because it's on 35 rather than 16, the quality's okay, is it?
More than okay. We can scan this at 4K and beyond, and there will still be picture quality beyond that isn't captured. So we're going to try and capture as much of the detail that's there.
So what are you going to do with this now?
Ultimately, we want to produce a documentary that will tell a comprehensive story of the Hovertrain, right up to the modern day. So we want to involve Rail World with that. They are a charity organisation that can always do with help. Beyond that, a DVD and Blu-ray release with added extras. We want as much of this material to be seen as possible.
And how are people going to get the chance to see what you've got?
That we still need to talk about amongst ourselves. It will be available for online streaming predominantly. We would hope, if we produce something of such quality, that a broadcaster might pick it up. But online streaming predominantly.
Okay, it's a fab story. It's brilliant, and I love the fact that even now we're still uncovering some footage of the 70s and this wonderful bit of transport history. But tell us a little bit about Fenland on Film. What do you get up to? What's it all about there?
Okay, we started out as a project to collate and sort of direct people to the vintage films and heritage films shot in this local area. I fell in love with the film medium and decided to shoot some film myself using vintage camera equipment. And it's gone from there, really. So we're always interested in shooting, current events, but on vintage cameras.
And I imagine if anyone's got any vintage stuff shot on vintage cameras, then you'd welcome that with open arms as well, would you?
Absolutely, yes. Only this morning I was talking to somebody who coincidentally has found a 8mm film, I believe, of the Hovertrain. So he and I are in talks. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can use that.
Drew, thank you so much for coming on the show this afternoon.
Absolute pleasure.
Stay safe, stay well, keep in touch, and let us know when we can see a little bit more of this footage.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Thanks for that, Drew.
Thanks for having us.
Drew Berry, filmmaker from Fenland on Film. This is BBC Radio Cambridgeshire.